Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Lilianne Marita. I'm a dog trainer in Florida, and I had I don't know, my lucky star was shining when I met Heather Stevens. We met on Facebook, started chit-chatting about dogs. She told me that she had written a book, and I was immediately interested. I got the book immediately, read it, and was totally blown away by her concept. The book is called Beyond the Breed. You can see it right behind her, her beautiful stand there. There it is, Beyond the Breed. And she talks about something called functional characters. That's going to be the main focus. And with us, Jenny and Laura are also part of Heather's team, so they'll chime in some of the things. We do have a chat, so if you want to post some questions in the chat, we'll answer them or answer them later. Or if you're watching this replay and you want to post some questions, we can address those. So Heather is lifelong dog lover. She'll talk a little bit about her businesses, what she does, and then just take it away, Heather. How did you come, first of all, how did you first were made aware of this concept of the functional characters?
Well, deep gratitude really to Dr. Isla Fishburne, who is a wolf specialist. I met her at the Natural Dog Conference in Birmingham in 2015, and I said to a mutual friend, I elbowed her and said, I need to meet that lady. So she introduced us, and then Isla came the following year to my doggy daycare and did a workshop on canine wellness. And part of that workshop, she mentioned about functional characters, and there were 2 or 3 other trainers in the room, and we all sat up and went, oh, this is really interesting. I need to know more about this. And so we asked her to come back later in 2016 to do us a workshop just on functional characters. And we had about a dozen people there, each with their own dog. I had 3, somebody else had a couple, and Isla went through and talked about the functional characters, told us what we all had. So that's how I found out what mine were. And then that was it. I was hooked. I became completely obsessed. And one of the other ladies in the event team, who can't be here tonight, she helped me at that first functional character workshop that we ran at the daycare, and she's come to everyone since. She is completely obsessed, as am I. And now Jenny has become obsessed. Laura is obsessed. And we have a lovely lady, Suzanne, in the team who is also obsessed, but she does all our admin for us. So that's kind of how it got started. And then during the first lockdown that we had here a couple of years ago, I wasn't allowed to do any work because we were all on furlough pay from the government. So I sat and did extra training with my dogs and thought, oh, I'm going to write a book, going to write about functional characters. And I can highly recommend also a course that Dr. Isla Fishburne runs, the Canine Wellness course, which is an online course. And all of the team have done the course, and that gives you such a good grounding into functional characters. And if you like the accent from the northeast of England, then you're going to love it, because she's from the northeast as well as Isla. So that's a really, really great course to start with, because reading the book is fine, but if you want to go more in depth, you either need to go to a workshop or you need to do Isla's course. So it's Isla's fault that we're obsessed, basically.
Yes, we're definitely obsessed. So tell us a little bit, what are functional characters?
So functional characters explain the functional purpose of an individual within a social group. They also explain the interactions between individuals, but those interactions can be different if you and Nicole has probably seen this at the daycare that she works at, if you've got 10 individuals in a group and they all know one another, and you take one out and put a different one in, then the dynamics and the interactions will change completely. So there are some characters that so for example, defenders are usually quite intolerant of overseers. I've got a female defender who's very intolerant of overseers. I'm not sure about Jenny because she has a male defender, and that was amazing when those two met for the first time. We unfortunately didn't have the camera ready, and all of our mouths dropped to the floor. It was so amazing seeing those two meeting and greeting, or not, as the case may be. And so I don't know whether Jenny's found that her defender is a bit intolerant of overseers.
I would have said so. He gets quite you can take it up to a point, and then you can see him going, I'm done now.
Yeah,
that's enough.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to watch the interactions between them, and the more a group of dogs are, for example, the event team, we walk a lot together. So one day there was, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us went out and we had 15 dogs between us, and seeing the interactions and how they all got on was just utterly amazing. It was just, this is probably what Nicole sees as well, the when you see dogs interacting, it's awesome. You can see what they're telling one another. It's just awesome. They're amazing.
We could watch all day. So something that I wanted, because a lot of the people watching this might not know, so I wanted to read, so the functional characters, so they're basically, let's say 2 subgroups. So they're the guides and then the followers. Yeah. And then within the followers, you classify them as defender, overseer, observer, hunter, follower, peacekeeper, and the lone individual. So would it be okay to maybe give a little overview of what each of these functional characters, because as you mentioned, it's the role that they would play within a pack, right? Within a group of dogs. And I guess in the wild, that group kind of stays constant as new puppies are born and others die. But in our society, right, those groups are randomly, like in the case of a daycare, or in the case of maybe a group of dogs that goes to an event, or in a family that has, here in the area that we live, it's not uncommon for people to have 3, 4, 5 dogs because they have farms, so they have a lot of room. So those are facts. But it's interesting when you say, like, especially if we're adding other, a different animal. So do you want to talk briefly about the characteristics of each of the characters?
Yeah, so in an undomesticated group, you would have 2 leaders, and they would be a male and female guide, and they decide what we do, where we do it, how long we do it for. So they decide where to hunt, how long to hunt for, what to hunt for, and how long to stay there. And then when the guides get up to walk away, the rest of the group would follow. So the guides are self-preserving. They don't get into anything that might in any way injure them, or it might be dangerous in any way. The defenders are about protection of the group. They also do so you can have a defender who's a defender enforcer, so enforces the rules of the guides, or you can have one that's a defender protector. So German Shepherd, for example, comes to mind. That's what you would consider a defender protector. Not that it's not breed specific. None of this is breed specific. So then you have the overseers. They are like the group's quality control managers. So they would, every morning when the group awakes, they would go around all the individuals and keep kind of checking in with them. Are you okay? You know, are you good to do your job today? Well, you know, yesterday you hurt your paw, so today are you good enough to hunt with us or defend us, whatever that character is. The hunters, they're very fast, very agile, they're very sight. So if you've got a dog that constantly watches, you know, and it will watch a bird fly over and it will still be watching where the bird flew long after the bird is gone, then you've probably got a hunter. Hunters are really hard to keep weight on. Laura has a little whippet hunter. She's usually got her own agenda. That's her there. Hunters are like, sorry, busy, jobs, look at my jobs list, must go by. So they're, you know, they're a bit, they can be a bit manic and crazy. Then you've got observer alerters. They're like the lookouts. You can imagine like a bunch of meerkats looking out while the rest of the group are eating, for example. The observers will be looking around and they can sense danger both visually, you know. I mean, dogs are much more tuned into the planet anyway, and they're very energy conscious creatures. So they're the kind of lookouts. The followers are the standby crew. So they'd be just, you know, kicking back, you know, got their cigar, they're laying there, just shout me if you need me, you know, that kind of thing. So they help the defenders to defend if they're a big built follower. They would help the hunters to hunt. They would maybe help the overseers, the alerters, but the only ones they don't help would be the guide, because the guide is the only one that has the intelligence, if you like, to decide what we're going to do. And if you have a social group in the wild that and both the guides are killed, then that's the social group won't survive, because they wouldn't know what to do, they wouldn't know where to hunt. So they would just die off, basically. What have I missed? Can you go through the list again, please?
So yeah, I think peacekeeper and lone individual.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, lone individuals are a bit like the followers. They would help out, you know, some of the other characters. They're like the wallflowers at a cocktail party. They're the ones stood in the corner on their own, not wanting to get involved in anything. Big personal space bubble, very small social network. The peacekeepers, usually these are puppies that spend a lot of time on their back when they're tiny. They're very appeasing individuals, and if we find it at work, we have a couple of peacekeepers at creche, and if there are two dogs that are getting a little bit heated, you know, and one of the girls is about to go over and sort that out, because obviously we don't intervene in every conversation the dogs are having, because dogs' conversations can get loud and a bit barky without it actually amounting to anything. So you have to learn, you have to know which conversations you need to get over and sort out and which you can leave. But if one of our peacekeepers thinks that that conversation should not be happening between those two individuals, then they'll go over, they'll either walk through them, or they'll go over and muzzle punch the side of one of the other dogs. And it looks a bit horrific, but, you know, and one will yelp, and, you know, then the peacekeeper walks away, and that's it, job done, kind of thing. So they're the ones that keep the peace. If two individuals are getting too heated in their discussion, then the peacekeepers will bring that energy back down again.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat, and then, so what I wanted you to, so how do we now bring this, like, I can see that in a, we've discussed like in a wild pack situation. So when that comes into our, let's say, domestic world, how do those roles play a part? Are they modified in any way? And then my other question, when you were talking about the followers, I think you said it's the followers, where they can, so they can, it looks to me, and that would probably complicate when we're trying to establish what functional character our dog is because they could assume some of the other roles like temporarily, right? It wouldn't be like their main character, but they could like be like the sub, right? Like if we needing this kind of work, okay, I'll step in for a little bit, but then I would go back to my main character, right? And then the other questions, okay, let me see. The questions that we had were.
Let me go one at a time because I'll never remember all of
Okay. Okay.
those. My brain's gone a bit ancient these days. So the first question was, how does that convert into a domestic group? Okay, so you basically still have the same basic characters. So I have a female guide, a female defender, and a male lone individual. So if I want to bring another dog into that group, because he's not great with males, particularly entire males, then another puppy would have to be a female. I wouldn't be able to bring in a female guide because my current female guide is only 10, and she probably won't be ready to relinquish her guiding for maybe another 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I could bring in potentially a male peacekeeper because the lone individual might be okay with that, but I wouldn't want to take a chance. If I brought in a female peacekeeper, that would definitely complement the group I've got. I couldn't get, I wouldn't want to get another defender because, my God, one in the household is enough. They are like a bull in a china shop. They are so clumsy. And, you know, I mean, bless her, all of mine are just, well, all dogs are lovely, but well, the girls will agree, she is a bit of a serious headache at times. So I'm kind of limited on what I can get. I could get a follower, but followers are not quick to learn stuff. They take quite a long time to learn. And I like fast learners. And people say, oh, well, you know, go for Border Collie if you like a fast learner. No, it doesn't work that way, because if you get a Border Collie that's a follower, you've basically got a dunce, or you can end up with a dunce. So it doesn't, because our domesticated groups don't have to hunt for their own food, then it doesn't directly convert, you know, the whole thing doesn't, you know, it's not the same as an undomesticated group as a domestic group. But it's really important to know what you've got, because if you say, for example, somebody on a farm has 5 dogs, and say they have I don't know, a guide, 2 overseers, an observer, and a follower perhaps, and you bring in another dog that's a bit manic, and you think, oh great, you know, this dog's really busy and it's fast and it wants to work, and you've maybe brought in another overseer, and then you've got 6 dogs but 3 are overseers. Oh man, you know, it's just going to be such a headache. So this is what I think everybody who ever holds onto a dog lead needs to know this stuff, because if you're bringing in additions to your group, you've got to bring in something that is going to be compatible, so that you know, a year down the line, you don't end up taking that dog back to the breeder or off to a rescue centre, or worse, have it put to sleep, because there are still vets that will do that despite the fact that it's a young healthy dog. Sorry, what was the next question?
Yeah, and that's super important, because I do have I do know of students that, because the dogs have come into them, you know, for whatever reasons, then you end up spending so much time managing, right? Like so and so doesn't get along with so and so, so this one has to leave here, and you have to be careful with the doors, and you know, and that becomes such
Yeah.
a nightmare. And if it you know, it can be
Yeah.
avoided, so that, you know, I think that's super important. So the question was, does this apply to all animals or just animals that work in packs? And when you have a single dog, do they play all the roles pending circumstances? Oh, interesting questions.
Yeah, it is an interesting question. If you have a dog that lives on its own, it will, the functional character is set at birth. There is some more research needs to be done as to whether it's actually set at conception, but it's definitely set at birth. So each individual, each dog born is born with a set character. But if a dog lives on its own, it, depending on which group it's with, so if we have lone dogs that live on their own that come to daycare, depending on which group they're with, they can show traits of other functional characters. So yes, it depends on which individuals that dog is interacting with, but you could see as an owner. So if you have a Mr. and Mrs. and they have one dog, then the Mr. and Mrs. might see lots of different characters in that dog. So this is why we like the workshops, because people come with their dogs, you know, most of the dogs that come live on their own, and then we can see them with a group, and then we can help to work out what they are. Some are really easy. They walk in the room and you say, that's definitely X, Y, or Z. Others you have to really study for quite a while, and you might come up with two possibilities. And we've still got dogs at creche that they've maybe been coming for 3 or 4 years, and we're still in and ahhing whether it's this or it's that. So, you know, and I'm sure the girls will agree that the more we discover about this stuff, the more dogs we work with, actually the more complicated it gets, because it's just it's, you know, I wished I had never learned this stuff now, because it confuses me at times, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought that dog was this, and now it's that. But that's the problem. They can switch what they're showing depending on who they're actually with. A bit like us, you know, if we went to a cocktail party, we would be like, you know, posh on our best behavior, probably wearing a, you know, frilly skirt or whatever, and then if you go to, you know, you know, go out with the girls on a Friday night and you just meet up in a bar, and you might be in jeans or something, you know, and the whole conversation is more, well, it'd be all dogs, wouldn't it, let's face it, but you know, so we adjust ourselves depending on who we're with. So it's bound to happen in dogs. But interestingly, one of the girls that works at my daycare, she has, I'm not sure if it's 5 or 7 goats, and she's seen functional characters in her goats. She knows she's got an overseer, and she also has a guide. You know, whether they're called this in goats, I don't know, but she's definitely got those 2 characters. It's really amazing. I've got to go over, that's Leanne, I've got to go over there and video these goats, because that's, and somebody I was speaking to recently actually said that somebody at one of the classes said that they've seen this in horses as well. So
that
really
was going to be my next question, because I know Carolee would be interested in that, and I know there's there's a dynamic, and we were talking about it the other day, that it's unbeknownst to me, like they were getting two boys in a pasture, and they were like, oh, that was not the right thing to do. So yeah, it's I to me it's fascinating. So we're all super interested in this, and I want to keep on learning. So my other question that I wanted to ask you is, do you find that uh, basically in the domestic, because I'm glad you brought that out about the hunting part, because I always wondered, like, well, dogs don't hunt anymore, we just provide the food for them, they have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner already served for them. uh, do you find that there's more prevalence of a certain functional character? Like, do most dogs fall into this category? Because I'm assuming to be a guide, it has to be, you have to be, you have to have a lot of characteristics to be able to live up to that. Because it seems to me like it's, like you said, it's like the glue that holds everything together. So when you have a guide in a domestic pack, what are some of the roles that they would take, since in the wild it mostly would be around hunting, and then maybe taking care of the puppies, right? The most two important activities, I would say. Well, and also safety, right? Warding off.
Yes and no. The female guide essentially is the mother of almost the entire group, because when other females are about to come into season, she would, there are different things that they do. So one's called speed and direction, and they try to stop or prevent the other bitches from coming into season. There probably are, I mean, I haven't done enough research, so this would be a question for Isla, really. There will be other bitches in the pack that will breed, but essentially the female guide is the mother of all the group. So in with my female guide, she obviously she doesn't need to hunt, but for example on a walk, I often, and Isla said this to me, she said, why don't you let her from time to time, if she wants to, when you get to a fork in the track in the forest, she's gone off on one track and you've decided that you're going to walk on the other one, instead of calling her back to you, just say to her, okay, we'll go that way. So let her do some of her guiding things. The only thing I've really noticed with her is that she's such a fast learner, and I've had her since she was 7 weeks old, so she has a massive training history behind her. But she does get bored very easily. So she needs, mentally, they need, a lot of input, because they're, if they can't be couch potatoes, followers can be couch potatoes. If you're a retired couple and you just want a dog that'll, be a couch potato with you and go out for a couple of walks a day and not be really bothered about what's happening in life, then get a follower. Do not get a guide, because they will be bored. Defenders and hunters are also quick learners, and they can, well, all bored dogs will invent their own hobbies. So yeah, there isn't much you can, I mean, lots and lots of scent and search games for guides. Let them go and find their supper in the garden, stuff your meat into kongs and hide them under bushes and things like that, and just kick the guide out. Let them go and search in the garden, and feed your follower in the kitchen so that he can go nom 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 and then go and back to his couch. You wouldn't do that with a guide. So I think Laura has the same or similar issue with Margot. Being a hunter, she just kind of has her own jobs list, doesn't she, Laura?
Yeah, hi. So I have a hunter and a follower, and the follower is exactly as described, and total couch potato. Not really interested in anything unless it involves food, really. But Margot, the hunter, doesn't stop. Oh, this is rich. She's actually still for the moment, and it's rare. If we're out on walks, she charging around. She's literally hunting, and although she doesn't have to hunt to feed herself, it's just such a strong instinct in her that, and she's not even interested in eating it when she's caught it. It's literally just the drive to catch, to chase and catch. But for me, the interesting thing is in day-to-day life is how to manage them so differently. I can't do the same thing with both of them and expect the same results. Wilfie would get very maxed out with half of the stimulation that Margot needs. So it's very much about how I exercise them, how I feed them. So Wilfie has Margot as a hunter is a very fussy eater, and I do really struggle to keep weight on her. She can take it or leave it. So I have to make it easy for her to eat. Whereas Wilfie is very opportunistic. If Margot will get distracted from eating, something will move and she'll wander off, and Wilfie will be in hoovering up her food. So he's on a licky mat to slow him down during the day. So I'm lucky enough that I can take them to work with me, and Wilfie just snoozes all day, just loves it. Margot will snooze for a couple of hours, and then that's it. I'm bored. And she definitely invents her own hobbies when she's bored. When she was a puppy, she chewed a lot, loads more than the other two have done. If I take her to work, she's into everything, interested in everything, what's going on. She wants to be in the middle of it. And movement is a really big thing. Yeah, really anything that moves. So out on walks, she'll just disappear. And it's partially that she's got her own agenda, but it's partially also that something's caught her attention and everything else is just demoted for that time while she has to concentrate on what she's doing. Yeah, I think she's probably a textbook hunter.
Do you find that hunters are less like lovey on people, like they're more like into their own thing? Because see, I have the two little sisters that I have. I'm always trying to like, I wonder what each one are. When you said that hunters, and one of them, Luna, the black one, like she's caught squirrels. She's at night, she comes in and her head is up to here in sand because she's been digging at the mold. She's always like, busy looking for something. And when you mentioned that it was hard to keep weight on her, I was like, oh, maybe that's it, because I feed them the same. They're labs, so I don't have the food issue. Like a mute point for them. They really just gobble everything instantly. But the yellow one is more like into everything. Like she wants to say hi to everybody. She wants to play with all the dogs that comes. And Luna's like, oh, you're a dog. Like, I'm not interested. And she's a little shy with people also. People kind of have to grow on her. If people try to reach over her, she puts this face like, oh, you're going to kill me. So do you find that too, that the hunters are more in their little hunting world and they don't need to be so social with other people and other dogs? Like, I mean, I'm thinking maybe Soleil is like an overseer because she's like she has to lick everyone and is always like in the middle of everything. Like she checking anything you do, she's like right there. So that's that from the little that I know, that's what I can see. So I was just curious about that. And then the other thing that I wanted you to touch on is, because I think this is so important, all my friends that do rescue, I really encourage them, to read the book and to learn more about this, because I think this could be so important on how to match people that are either wanting to bring another dog and they already have a dog, or even if it's just a lone dog, it's just going to be like a family dog. Like what you said, in this area, there's a lot of seniors and everybody's looking for a puppy. And I go like, oh, that's not the best thing. So we have all these lovely dogs that could be the perfect, companion couch potatoes, and people kind of shy away from that because everybody wants a puppy. And so if you want to bring a little light on that, on how useful this could be, and if also, I think if the people that are doing the rescue and placing the dogs can bring some light and explain to the people that are adopting why, you know, this dog is a better idea than this dog, then I think that would be huge to make so many more dogs find a forever home as opposed to bouncing, you know, from place to place.
I agree. I think for cuddliness, the follower's top of the list. With the hunters, I think, I don't know if you find this, Laura, they're cuddly if they have ticked everything off the to-do list.
So Mark's super sociable. When we arrive somewhere, she has to rush around and say hi and kiss everyone, and she loves people and she loves other dogs, but then she's busy.
But I think with the dogs, the functional characters that are not very tactile are the lone individuals, and mine isn't. Never been able to hug him, and if I put my face close, I mean, I can now, I've had him 9 years, but in the early stages, if you went anywhere near him, and particularly put your face near him, then you would lose your own face. He's like, get out of here. This is my personal space bubble. It's very large. Now go away. Guides are the same. I've never been able to give my guide a little kiss goodnight. She's like, whoa, what are you doing? You're getting too close to me. Just back up, mother. So those two have very small social networks, very big personal space bubble. Guides don't need to connect with others in the group except for their own small little network, and lone individuals don't want to connect with anybody. Peacekeeper, I used to have one that used to come for boarding and that still comes to creche. Super huggy, you know, very tactile. Defender, my defender, if I didn't have her, I wouldn't have anything I could hug. So I think defenders are very huggable, but they're not as pushy and in your face for it as the followers. The followers are very kind of, oh, I need to hug now, please. Whereas defenders are like, well, if you're up for a hug, we'll have a hug, but you know, I'm not bothered, I can sleep here. So they're very much more bomb proof. Overseers, I don't know, maybe they're huggable, maybe they're not. I think it depends how manic they are, because obviously the functional character that an individual is born with is one thing, but then we need to take the breed predispositions of what, you know, so all of mine are crosses between two other breeds. So my guide is a Staffy collie, so then I need to take those two breed predispositions into it. My defender is a Staffy Labrador, so the Staffy is quite a full-on dog, quite an energetic dog, and then I put the defender into the mix, and that's why I've got a double whammy of idiot. Bless her, she is lovely. So breed predispositions, then you've got functional character, but then you've also got, what were the parents like? If you have a really nervous observer alerter and you breed from this observer alerter, and say there is a male and female defender in the litter, they will be very nervous defenders. You know, they won't be big, strapping, bomb-proof, come on, let's kill the foe kind of thing. They will just be, oh no, I can't go and do that. So you need to look at where, you know, what is the lineage of where the dogs have come from.
So do you think that's what some people categorize as the fear biters, is because if they're pushed over and their functional character is really not up to that, do you think that's where you get that, some of those?
Yeah, you could get that from that kind of individual. but I'm sure Jenny can chime in with this as well. The most, I think low confident followers, observer alerters, lone individuals, and potentially guides. I mean, anything can be a fear biter. It depends on what is its social history, what is its training history. You know, was it a dump off? Was it a street dog? You know, I mean, that's a whole other topic, isn't it? Street dogs, I mean, they're coming through to the UK like there's no tomorrow. But I don't know what you see in your classes more as fear biters. The trouble is, we don't, when they walk into the class, you can't say, oh, that's a so-and-so.
Yeah. Interestingly, I've found a surge of dogs that I actually reckon are guides, if I had to put money on it. And they're not given that kind of personal space, that kind of respect that they would expect. And that's been the reason for a lot of the nipping and the biting. So talk about breed, great example. I've been working with a family recently who have just rescued a little Dachshund, tiny, cute little thing. And if that's not a guide, I'll be really surprised. But because of his breed, they got him as a family dog. He's been manhandled. He's never been left alone. And that's been really the reason for a lot of the nipping and the biting. So, yeah, again, you're talking about matching dogs to families, but people who will go, but I want a very specific kind of breed, because they think that it's just the breed, that's the breed that will suit their family. They want something small, something cute, and it never occurs to them that actually something small and cute could be a guide. You know, not all Rottweilers or Defenders, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's why you know, people see a breed. I mean, they see a Labrador. Oh, they like food. No, not if it's a hunter. We have a Labrador that comes to creche that's a hunter, and it's, you know, it's like a hat rack. We have a lurcher who's a hunter who also looks like a hat rack. You know, this stuff is important because if breeders understood it, they could place the dogs much more carefully and much more precisely. You know, what do you want to do with your dog? Do you want to compete with it? Do you want it to be, you know, just a pet dog? Do you want to do agility? Do you want to do heel work to music? You know, because if you want to do heel work to music, then don't get yourself a Defender, because that dog's likely to, you know, if anything's going on in the ring over there, that dog's going to be crabbing around you, and you're going to, you know, lose all your moves. If you want an assistance dog, don't do it with an observer alerter, because that dog's going to be like, oh, I can't possibly go out in the street. It's way too scary. And for the unfortunate souls that end up with the lovelies who run the rescue centres, if the rescue centres can really get to grips with this, and please, if rescue centres can raw feed, it's so much easier to see the functional character. It's also easier to rehome the dog, because it's not squitting out diarrhea everywhere from, you know, lovely kibble feed. And again, the rescue centre can better place that dog into a home that want either a couch potato or something that wants to be more active, that they want to do canicross or whatever with. So, you know, whoever hangs on to a dog lead needs to know this stuff. You know, whether you're a dog professional or a dog owner, this stuff is really important for the future generations and welfare of all dogs, really. And, you know, I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime, but wouldn't it be really nice if every puppy born could go to a home, stay with that home, and that we ended up with, I think I put it in the book, you know, for us I mean, obviously England's a very small place compared to the US, But if we just had one rescue centre per county in the UK, wouldn't that be great? Instead of, I mean, I can think of 5 that are within 50 miles of where I am. We just need so many rescue centres because there's so many dogs being, kicked out, dumped off because they're not understood, both as a canine or as a functional character or in any other way. And they're also fed on so much rubbish that they're showing behaviours that, they wouldn't show if they were fed a species appropriate diet. But that's a whole other ball game as well.
Yes, and one of the things that I see here is people are obsessed. They get a dog and then they immediately want to do the DNA testing, like what breeds are in here. And so I think this is a good tie on maybe to end that what we're discussing here. Yeah, the breed is important, but this is beyond the breed. And like what you said, if we can bring both things together and people have an understanding of that, so that we can, pick better dogs that are suited for whatever we want to do. Whether it's a work competition, whatever it is, but also just to have a happy dog that can find a forever dog. So I want to thank you, Heather, Jenny, and Laura, and I hope that we have made everybody obsessed about wanting to learn more. So we're going to break because then we're going to pivot a little bit. So I encourage you to listen to the second part that we're going to do and talk about bringing this together, what Heather briefly mentioned about diet. So thank you very much for joining. And we also are going to do an offer for Heather's book for those of you interested. So now let's talk about your book, because you have an offer for people that are watching, whether live or the replay. So tell us a little bit about that.
So because of our connection, and you said about wanting to get some books for your guys in your classes. So I thought, well, why don't we do, because if you buy the book from the website called The Long River, the one I mean, they actually only pay authors 60% of the book. So if you buy a book for $10 from Amazon, the author only gets $6, which, I just think it's a bit mean. Anyway, so if you would like to have a signed copy of my book, then put your orders into Lilianne and I will send her over those amount of books. If we maybe close the ordering process, I don't know, in a week or 10 days or something, and then I can just send you over that amount of books, whoever many wants to order them. You can order them direct from me at the Facebook page or the Facebook group Beyond the Breed. It's a private group, so you need to apply to go in there. But yeah, if you want to order it through Lilianne, and I'll do a discount as well. So I'll let you know what the discount is, Lilianne, because I don't know what it works out at in dollars. I haven't worked that one out.
That's okay. That's okay. And then we need to factor in the shipping from overseas. But so the whole point is, I have several people that have bought the book and they've actually gone back and bought another one to give to someone that does rescue. And I'm like, yay, we need to spread the word around, because my secret hope is that we can do this and have more people interested, and then hopefully bring Heather over so she can do a live webinar here and teach us, because there's so much more. But I want to thank you so much. I'm learning so much, and like I said, it's been a long time since I read information that I think can be so impactful, that is something new and fresh and so important, that, like you said, I think it can impact the lives of so many dogs, and also the people that work so hard. I think of how frustrating it is for all these rescues to get these dogs, and they don't know how to place them, what to place them, or they keep coming back, and some of them end up being euthanized, or it's just horrible. So so I think this can go a long way to breathe in fresh air into how we think about dog communication and how important it is to see it with this light, so that we can do really what's best for them. So thank you so much again, Heather.
You're welcome.
So helpful.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jenny and Laura, and everyone listening. And join Heather's group, Beyond the Breed. It's a Facebook group, and then DM me if you're interested in the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you.